Hey, 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 friends. Welcome back to another episode of Thriving Thoughts. I'm your host, Dr. Sherri. I just don't understand people. I can't tell you guys how many times I have heard that lately. I've not necessarily heard the words spoken verbatim, but I've heard it and seen it in a lot of social media stuff and a lot of conversations. In just overhearing conversations that I hear at the dog park, people shake their heads and they share stories. And they talk about other people and they think, I just don't get it. I just don't understand them. If the world had fewer of people who thought like this, if the world didn't have cheaters, if the world didn't have liars, if the world was only ridded of people that I just don't understand, in other words, of people who really just aren't like me. And you know, on this show, we keep it focused on thriving thoughts. And the only thing that you have the ability to grow or to make thrive is you. That's right. You don't have the power to change anybody else's thoughts. You only have the power to change yours. So why do we spend so much energy focusing on what other people do or don't do? Well, I think it's easier. I think it's easier for us to focus on what other people are doing or not doing. Because, you know, as a spectator, think about a sports game. You go to the game and you think, oh, I can't believe you did that. You shouldn't have done that. This is the play you should have made. I'm not even a sports junkie, but I've seen people who are like that. And they get so upset and they think, I never would have done that, right? Or we watch the scary movie and we judge the people because they're running up the stairs. Have y'all ever been chased by like a knife-wielding, masked maniac? I haven't. But if I ever am, I hope I live to tell the tale of what I decided to do in the moment when I wasn't thinking clearly. But see, that's what we do. We judge other people's behavior. We judge their words. We even surmise their motivation. And we spend all of this time only to get frustrated, only to get upset that there's somebody who we don't get, that there are people who we just don't understand. I mean, I have to wonder, what would happen if we invested our energy in what we can actually control, which isn't other people, by the way, it's ourselves? The answer is fairly simple. We would thrive. We would thrive. We would stop striving and just surviving. And that's not just a play on words. Listen, when we focus on things that we can't control, we are never accomplished, and therefore we are never fulfilled. We are always striving, right? Climbing, striving, struggling, surviving. But if we switch that train track in another direction, we switch it back to ourselves, make that flow of energy about us, we have the power to thrive because it's something that we actually have influence over to change the outcome. So the question, why don't we do that? I mean, it makes sense, right? It makes sense to you. To switch the train track, I have to stop trying to understand or being frustrated or miffed by people I don't understand and start trying to understand myself. It's an ambiguous, big question. It's one that we say, I don't even know how to look at myself. So it's easier to look at someone else. Listen, when I was a clinical psychologist, that's what I did. I helped people to look inside so that they can grow. There's a lot of things inside of you that you don't know about yourself that it would serve you well to learn about yourself so that your life can be fuller, richer, more complete. Now, doing that deep dive, trying to understand self-work is not without risk. I think that's the other reason that it's easier for us to focus on other people because there's no risk in that, right? We can just play armchair expert on other people, cast our judgments, and be done with it. But when it comes to looking in the mirror, looking at ourselves, I think we fear what we might find. Let me just clear the air a little bit for you. Let me reveal a little bit of what's behind the curtain. There are great, amazing things, and there are some scary things and some sad things. In other words, there are areas for you to discover about yourself to grow. That's the whole point of a growth mindset. It sounds popular, right? You should get a growth mindset. You should get some self-help books. You should do this. But we kind of stop on the surface and we go, oh, I've got the concept. But we don't make the deep dive to understand ourselves. And I'll tell you this truth. No person who is on the journey of understanding themselves says, I just don't understand people. Because once you pull back the curtain, once you look in the mirror and you discover things about yourself, you understand just how complex and amazingly intricately created you are. You discover how many layers of you that you will never stop learning about you until you take your last breath. For some people, we think, I don't want to go there because it's scary. It is scary, but not going there is scarier unless you're satisfied with a life that strives. Let me ask you, are you satisfied? Are you happy with living a life where you feel like you're just constantly struggling to stay afloat? Are you tired of living a life of blaming other people for your problems? Are you tired of this same old mantra in your thought world about how bad the world is, how bad things are, how bad other people are? Are you tired of it because you finally come to the place where you realize all of that energy has been wasted and none of it has produced growth in your life? You've heard it said before that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. I'm asking you to put your thoughts where your mouth is. If you say you want a life that thrives, even if you don't know what that looks like, this can come later. Right now, I'm just challenging you. Are you willing to take a look inside? Are you willing to look at who you are, to discover who you are not? You see, those two things, when we really understand who we are and who we are not, guess what? That magical word that people like to toss around, you need to have boundaries. Boundaries? Guess what? Boundaries are a product of knowing who you are and knowing who you are not. They are not something that you learn. They're just a product of this self-reflection. You see, because if you try to set a boundary without knowing who you are and who you're not, you're never going to keep it. It's not a boundary. And then you're going to feel more frustrated. You're going to continue to struggle, continue to strive. So it's knowing who you are, knowing who you are not, knowing your values, knowing what you want to prioritize in your life, knowing how to evaluate what I say I want to prioritize and what my life reflects. Do they match or are they incongruent? Turning that energy back to understanding yourself requires you to be honest with yourself. And that's a tough one because you're going to see some stuff that you don't like. Well, guess what? Nobody is perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Neither one of us will ever be perfect. There is no perfect person. Do not be fooled. Your job is not to be perfect. Your job is to grow because, see, if you are living and breathing, you are here for a reason. You are still here for a reason. Somebody needs something. Somebody needs something from you. But you'll never be able to serve that person without growing who you are and knowing who you are. If I were to ask you, do you love yourself? You might say, yeah, I do. I love myself. But suppose I followed that up with, how do you talk to yourself? Do you say, oh, geez, you're so stupid. You just can't get anything right. I'll be valuable when I get down a dress size. I'll be valuable when I make this amount of money. I'll be valuable when you fill in the blank. That is not talk that connotes loving yourself. In fact, it's degrading talk. It's talk that says you are worthless. So see, looking in the mirror, understanding who you are, helps you to recognize those inconsistencies and to rectify them. It helps us come face to face with the things we think we're doing or think we believe and testing whether or not we really believe them. And it allows us to evaluate our beliefs and determine if they're true or if they're false. If you're struggling and striving in your thought world and in your life, I can guarantee you that many of the thoughts that you have are false, that they're lies. They're false beliefs or expectations or interpretations about yourself, others, in the world that perhaps maybe you've carried around for a little too long. Knowing yourself is the greatest gift you can give both yourself and anyone else. When you know how valuable you are, when you know who you are and you know who you are not, you stop having the compulsion to understand or get other people or change other people because you know it's tough work. And everybody's got to go at their pace when they're ready. I'm not here to force you into being ready. I'm here to ask you, are you ready? Are you ready for something different? Because if you are, you have to be also willing to change your focus from other people back to you. So remember this. I just don't understand people, said no one who first understood herself. Come on and join me at my Thriving Thoughts texting community. All you need to do is text the word thrive to 540-369-2139. And on Monday, I have a fun interview with somebody who schooled me on stoop ball. So if you don't know what stoop ball is, you're going to want to turn into that. If you're a city kid, you probably know. If you're a suburban kid like me, tune in and listen. All right, friends, remember to speak truth over the lies, and you will thrive in any and every circumstance.